Guys, so don't forget to do your silly sentences. If you were off on Monday due to Charleston Wrap, then you can just choose 7 words from that list to write some silly sentences. If you're not in a silly mood, it's okay. Just come up with some sentences with your words. That's totally fine. And then screenshot me a picture on Dojo or email is fine. Alright, so today in science we learned about air, masses, and fronts. I'm going to read it and we'll go over the answers that we went over in class today. Okay, air, masses, and fronts. Have you ever heard the weather forecaster talk about warm fronts or cold fronts moving in? Or maybe you've seen them represented on a weather map. Warm fronts and cold fronts bring changes to the weather because warm and cold air masses meet and push against each other. An air mass is a large body of air that has about the same temperature, air pressure, and moisture throughout. Air masses form over land or over water. If an air mass forms over land, we call it a continental air mass. And if an air mass forms over water, we call it a maritime air mass. Continental air masses are dry because they formed over land, while maritime air masses are wet because they formed over water. Air masses can also be warm or cold depending on where they formed. Polar air masses are cold because they form near polar areas. Tropical air masses are warm because they formed close to the equator. Air masses move around and can push against each other. A front is a boundary between air masses or the place where two air masses meet. A cold front forms when a cold air mass moves into a warm air mass. The cold air pushes the warm air high into the atmosphere where clouds are formed. Cold fronts usually bring stormy weather. A warm front forms when a warm air mass moves into a cold air mass. Warm air slides up and over cold air. Warm fronts usually bring steady precipitation. A stationary front forms when a warm air mass and a cold air mass meet, but they do not push against each other. It is known as an unmoving front. Meteorologists track air masses and fronts and are able to predict weather patterns. Sorry guys. The vocabulary for what we just read is right there at the bottom of the page. Students will need to add their flip book to their interactive notebooks, their science notebooks there, and they can use their vocabulary to answer them. The directions are at the top of the page for how to cut and paste. And then we went over our fill in the blank and we talked about the correct answers. So number 1, the place where two air masses meet is called a front. A front is the correct answer. For numbers 2 and 3, because they go together on the sentence there, a continental air mass forms over land while a maritime air mass forms over water. Numbers 4 and 5. Polar air masses are cold and tropical air masses are warm. Number 6. A cold front forms when a cold air mass moves into a warm air mass. Number 7. An air mass is a large body of air that has about the same temperature, air pressure, and moisture throughout. Number 8. A warm front usually brings steady precipitation. And then number 9, an unmoving front is called a stationary front. Alright guys, that's all for today. Again, don't forget to do your silly sentences. And then if you want to go ahead and get ahead and on spellingcity.com, you're more than welcome to do that. Or if you still have assignments that you need to complete on there from previous weeks, log on and try and get some of those done. Alright, I will see everybody again tomorrow. Have a great afternoon. Bye.